Good evening, everybody. It is 5:35 on Thursday, April 15th, and I will now call to order the THPRD Budget Committee. Excuse me, it's April 16th. I'm going to ask Jessica to please take the roll.
Sure. Gail Boyle. Hannah Bowie. Elizabeth Edwards. Raj Maraha.
Here.
Barbie Miner is excused. Alfredo Moreno.
I'm here. Hope you can hear me.
We can, thank you. Miles Palacios.
Here.
Pradna Patel.
I'm here.
Thank you. Tia Ping.
Here.
Priya Tinuku.
And just a little bit of housekeeping, I'll remind my colleagues who are in the room, we have our microphones with the push button in order for the audio to be picked up since this meeting is recorded. Please remember to push the button before you speak when we get to the Q&A later this evening. So with that, I'm going to move us on to agenda item number 2. I'm going to open the floor for, I'm going to move it over to manager's comments.
Yes, I
Hit me
appreciate
in
it.
stride.
No worries. Well, welcome. This evening is a longer meeting. We go through, as many of the committee members know, in detail the complete budget, and we are welcome to have conversation and discussion on various topic items. The committee did a great job sending advanced questions, and we provided responses. We had a bonus question come in later today, and it was a really good question regarding capital and long-term programming. And Jared's, we actually added a slide, was a bonus slide for us to kind of review that subject matter and really discuss it well. But again, the role for the Budget Committee tonight is really to hear well from the directors all of the various programming operational aspects to care for the district. And that portion, ends up us listening to you all discuss and review the very subject. Certainly want to say a thank you to Jared. His staff, Olivia, I think, is online as well. They did a great job in preparing, packaging this up. As we know, it is a pretty significant document when all said and done. So the proposed budget really enables the district to have a plan to operate, maintain, and provide services to the public we serve. The budget is really grounded with the work our staff does in cooperation with the board of directors, following our mission, our vision, our values, and the budget priorities, which are all items that are adopted by our board. So we are continuing our commitment to equity, inclusion, and belonging. Those strategies remain with us. We recognize there's a changing landscape on a day-to-day basis at times of being careful how we manage that we remain eligible for a lot of different funding mechanisms. We're on a day-to-day basis of investing in the infrastructure of the Park District, and that infrastructure can be the hard assets, and it can be our staff as resources as well. So the proposed budget has the third year now of our local option funding, and that's a critical component of how we move forward. It actually is 20% of our operating budget. So it's serving a purpose that enables us to continue all of our programming, including, and I know Tia will love hearing this because later on you're going to hear from Holly on replacing our legacy registration program. While national and state level funding has come and gone back and forth, we still are winning some significant grants, but we know we can't rely heavily on federal funding, particularly at this point, because it's challenging across the board. But I'm comfortable with how we're managing things. Jared's work has been excellent in forecasting, and we're in a good place. The budget includes modest increases across the board. We'll discuss those with you this evening. And those sources can be, some of it is just simply outside increases, whether it be health benefit costs, the medical side, of course, but it also can be the contractual basis we have with our employees as well. The general fund does include a healthy amount of capital, and staff will be reviewing that with us. And of course, we're beginning our transition process this next fiscal of entering into our Parkside building, our new overall operations administrative building. And we're 3/4 out of our former building, and we're still working through the process. And so we're going to have some lived experience. You'll hear that from staff of as we operate the new building, we'll learn more about the costs of opening those facilities up, as well as what we will do with the administration space over at HMT as well. So that we did include some funding. You'll hear this from Jared with regard to the passage of the bond. We're just a month away now for our replacement bond. You'll hear more from Holly on that. But there is a funding component to this evening's discussion that is the bond fund, and with the aspirational hopes that we will win soon. So our division directors will go over their material. They'll talk about what's going on in their specific budgets, their areas of responsibility. We'll have discussion time as well. And we're excited about the proposed budget. It delivers on the various goals, advances our equity and inclusion commitments, and we're maintaining what our community expects us to do. So we're excited about that this evening. And with that, I'm going to turn it over Jared's way.
Doug, close enough? About that. Okay, better? A little closer? All right, there we go. So, turn this on. We did receive one last minute question. And thank you to all who sent in questions. We are happy to receive them, and we're also able to provide those responses with the exception of this question, but I have the response right now. So ultimately, Hannah noticed that on page BI 15, that the general fund projection assumes 3 million in capital outlay starting in fiscal year 28 going forward. And if you want to get to BI 15, it's to the budget information section, about the 15th page in. So Hannah noticed that for capital outlay, starting in fiscal year 28, we have 3 million each year going forward. But then on page CIP, which in the capital improvement section, page 4 and 5, they're facing pages, that in fiscal year 28, we have $7.1 million listed. And so she was well, we'll try that this mic. So she noticed the discrepancy between the 5-year capital funding sources schedule versus the projection back in BI 15 that lists $3 million a year. Now, the way that this has come about is that our capital budget committee starts out each fall with all of the projects that would be really good to get done in the next fiscal year. And that's what that $7 million represents. That's if we had all the resources that we need, we would complete all of those $7 million of projects. So that's where they start. And then they have discussions back and forth as to which projects can be pushed out to future years versus which projects cannot wait and need to get done. Ultimately, reducing the number of projects down to the $3 million that will be put into the proposed budget for fiscal year 28. And so that's why we see a discrepancy between the 5-year capital project listing by sources versus the fiscal projection. Okay, you're welcome. And again, thank you for your questions. We truly appreciate them. So the district has continued to build on the comprehensive planning work completed in prior years. Many of these guiding documents are referenced throughout the proposed budget, and staff provide regular updates to the board as milestones are reached and as plans change and plans and conditions change. Now, as always, the district's core values and budget adopted priorities remain the foundation of our budget development process. Now, they have shaped the choices, the assumptions, and resource allocations reflected in the proposed budget before you tonight. Our goal is to present a financial plan that is both responsible and responsive, positioning the district to meet current needs while preparing for challenges and opportunities ahead. As we just were talking about it, the 5-year financial projection continues to be built on a conservative foundation. Resource growth is projected with modest annual increases, while expenditures are projected on the higher end to ensure we are planning responsibly for potential cost pressures. For this year, the projection again assumes that the district is fully staffed, fully operational, delivering all programs and completing all planned capital projects each year. Now, this creates a realistic but cautious picture of our long-term obligations. Now, the key assumptions that are included within this projection are annual resource growth in the range of 3 to 3.3%, 6% annual growth for personnel services, 7% annual growth for materials and services, $3 million in capital outlay each year, and contingency levels ranging from $3.5 million down to $2 million over the period. Now, under these assumptions, the reserve for future years is projected to grow to $18 million by fiscal year 2030, with no drawdowns anticipated to fiscal year 2031. Now, district board policy does state that the reserve must remain above 10% of operating expenses, and throughout this projection, the district remains in full compliance with that policy. We are proposing $127.7 million for the general fund. This represents a 12.4% decrease from the current year amended budget. However, the current year amended budget includes $21 million for the Parkside, the purchase of the Parkside building, a transaction which actually took place at the end of fiscal year 25. So when you remove the $21 million from this comparison, the proposed budget actually represents a 2.3% increase from the current year budget. Now, this increase is attributable to increases in property taxes, carry forward of grant and capital funds, as well as increased cash carry forward. The total resources for the proposed budget are just over $127.7 million. The largest source in the general fund is the property tax revenue, comprising 48% of the proposed budget, totaling almost $61.5 million. The next largest resource is carry forward from the current year, and it is projected at $40 million, making up an additional 31% of the budget. The program fees and charges is projected to be almost $12.4 million, or 10% of the budgeted resources. And the remaining resources for the general fund include the grants and sponsorship revenue at 5% and other revenues at 6%. When we look at this summary of the general fund expenditures by division, in the proposed budget, the appropriations include 1% for the board of directors, 14% for administration and capital projects, 15% for park services, 28% for recreation services, and another 28% making up the remainder, which is our ending fund balance, contingency, and reserve for future expenditure. And we will review these division proposals in the upcoming slides. But before we get to that, are there any questions, any discussion?
Quick, Jared,
Yeah.
the other revenue, is that including like federal funds? Or
No.
what all is included in there?
Yeah, other revenues are going to include interest on investments, the lease revenue from the cell towers and the few spaces that we lease out, sale of assets, those types of revenues.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Mhm.
Actually, quick follow-up question.
Yeah.
Why is there such a big dip from the 2 previous years in terms of portions there
So
for the other?
the other revenue, do you have a particular page you're looking at? Slide 7, let's go back. Yes, yes. So that's the sale of Fountain Creek Service Center. And we're making up that 21 million in budget, but there was other resources in fiscal year 25. You're welcome.
Is there any way to make the whole program less dependent on fluctuating resources? Like maybe increasing program fees and charges and just constantly worrying about what the tax revenues are going to be and making the Park and Rec District more independent of these fluctuating resources?
I can comment a little and then maybe Jared can follow. Our tax revenues are really, extremely steady. The challenge, of course, is that they are not a go-to increase opportunity every other day. And so really the balance of the show is being, really efficient with the funds we do have available to us, because there is some elasticity to the program revenue side as well. If we increase too much, then, we have seen this before happen, that numbers start falling in participation. And in the end, it's very fair to say that almost every program we run in the Park District is subsidized. So your call out is correct. It is subsidized, but it's the tax base that is keeping the show moving. And certainly the program revenue is valuable, it's important, but it is not the sole contributor or the vast contributor to keeping things moving.
Okay.
I don't know, Jared, if you want to add to that.
It's one of the reasons that our property taxes are so important to the district is that they are steady. And unfortunately, the way the law is currently set up, they're limited in their growth. This way, one of the reasons that not only us as the Park District, but a lot of the cities around and the counties, we're all in similar boats of feeling that resource constrained when there is no constraint on the amount that the expenses can grow by.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm getting at. As a taxpayer, I'm beginning to get a little cranky about taxes. And I know I'm not the only one. And so it's probably fairy tale time, but if there could be some way of reducing our dependency on taxes and other fluctuating revenue sources, that would be really nice.
And we have ongoing work legislatively, because it is a topic, it's across the nation. But, in Oregon particularly, because a lot of federal funds have dried up in Oregon. And the reality is that with one funding source and it being predominantly based on property tax, it puts a strain.
Absolutely.
And it is a topic of discussion that we have some work ahead of us down in Salem and otherwise.
If I could, I just also want to highlight coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic,
One of the things that we did as a district in restructuring, it was really look for ways to diversify revenue opportunities. So in addition to the last several years where we've invested and really increased our performance and being competitive for grant opportunities, we've started a sponsorship program, and we're looking at sponsorship opportunities and have some pretty ambitious goals to sell sponsorship opportunities throughout the district. We've expanded our opportunities for rentals, and we've made more places available and tried to streamline our ability for rentals. So there is a lot of work being done to make small adjustments where we can. In fact, I remember last year at the budget committee, we had a discussion around the sponsorship, right? I think there was a question of, well, that's not going to bring in a ton of money. And the point that we were making back is you're absolutely right. It will take time to build that program, but we definitely have an eye on diversifying revenue opportunities. Now, while I say that we're looking for additional revenue streams to diversify, I really look at those as things that are additive, but we will always be predominantly dependent upon property taxes.
Okay.
Just going to jump in and I remember that conversation about sponsorship last year, and you know, but actually the thing that struck me on this slide was having your grants program being still relatively new and already having 5% of your budget coming from grants. Now that's not necessarily the most stable. You don't know what you're gonna get, and also that is a way to ease the burden on constituents and taxpayers in the space.
As having had several jobs over my career that were grant based, I appreciate the flexibility and the inability to plan for the future once the grants run out. Yeah.
I mean, one of my questions on this was there a plan or a strategy to try and reach the threshold of 5%? Is there a desire to hold it there, to go up, to go down? I know that we have added pressures with what's going on at the federal level.
So the 5% includes only the grants that we each, but they're not included as they're not official yet. And so once those become official, we will add them to the budget.
It's exciting. Thank you.
Yep.
I have another question. Sorry. Could you explain carry forward projects, non-projects? Exactly what's the description there?
So what that entails is all of the capital projects that we have dedicated funds to,
Future projects?
current
current
projects that aren't moving as fast as we want them to.
Okay.
And therefore we need to carry those funds forward into future years to keep those projects to actually do them.
And your calculated increased costs, et cetera? But the future always seems to have increased costs.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. If we look at the capital section, we have a column in with the carry forward that adds additional costs to the project if necessary.
Can you tell me which some of these projects are?
Yes, we will go into detail,
Oh,
much
okay.
detail into
Thank you.
the future slides into that. Yep. Okay. Hearing no more questions, we'll keep going. So the proposed board appropriations total 535,320 for the coming year. Now this includes the district costs for legal and audit services, district memberships, and training costs for board members. Administration includes appropriations for the Office of the General Manager, Communications, Human Resources, and Finance. And the proposed budget for administration totals $17.8 million. The Office of the General Manager includes funding to move forward on district initiatives based on the outcome of the replacement bond measure, supporting each department in the transition to the new Parkside building, and continue to strengthen partnerships with regional partners. Within the administration division, the appropriations are split 51% to communications, 25% to finance, 20% to human resources, and 4% to the Office of the General Manager. And with that, I will turn it over to Holly to talk about communications.
Okay, thank you, Jared. For the record, my name is Holly Thompson, and I am the Communications Director for the Park District. Communications is both a division and a department. So within the Communications Division, there are 4 distinct departments. The first department is on administration page 8, and that is the Communications Department. I serve as the manager of that department as well. And within this department, we basically have 3 distinct work units. 2 of us, myself as director and my admin specialist, have responsibilities division-wide to support the work of the entire division in the district. And then we have 3 people within the communications department that work on our graphic design, on our digital engagement, and printing and prepping all the posters, banners, and materials that you see promoting Park District information. The staff there have and process over 1,200 work orders annually. They lead all of the registration marketing materials in coordination with the Recreation Division. This is the team working with the IT department that led the launch of our new website, which is up and live now. It is also the team working with staff across the district to lead communications on the bond measure on May 19th, just a month away. And we also offer strategic communications support district-wide on various issues that pop up. So some highlights of things that we've supported this year include the Aquatics Department, the STIR Center, a Congresswoman Bonamici visit just a couple weeks ago, and general patron and intergovernmental communications support. 3.69 people within, and 0.69 of a person just doesn't sound nice, but 3.69 people within the communication department lead district-wide events under the supervision of Karen Madsen, our events supervisor. These 3 staff lead 95 district-wide events year-round for us that 35,000 people attend. And we really work hard to link the tools of our community events to support the district-wide community engagement needs. So you'll see this team supporting design and development, park services, bond communications. For example, this Sunday we have the American Revolution War Memorial dedication. This is the team doing the legwork for that event. Or next week, a ribbon cutting for our new at-grade crossing at Shoals Ferry. So we're really using the strength of our events staff to support the planning, design, development work happening throughout the district on top of all of our community-wide events. The next department that we're going to talk about is the Equity and Engagement Department. And it is on administration page 13. It is led by the majestic Lulu Ballesteros Jones. And our Equity and Engagement Department leads district-wide strategies on equity and belonging and really works closely with every nook and cranny of the organization. While this is our Equity and Engagement team, they lay no claim to all of this work. They're really working throughout the district because there is great equity and belonging work happening in every single division and department in the district. This team also leads some important programs for the district, the financial aid program and the volunteer program, and of course, Centro de Bienvenida, done in conjunction with the Recreation Division, which is integral to our equity and belonging approach. Something this team is working really hard on and will continue to work hard on in the next year is adapting our approaches to deal with the changing national climate. We gave a presentation, Lulu and Cynthia talked at the last board meeting, and really spoke with our board of directors about leading with listening and how this is a time to be adaptive and flexible. And while participation and numbers and things like Centro de Bienvenida are definitely been impacted by the national climate, the quality and of the work has not been impacted, and the meaning behind it has been even more meaningful. People are really, really, really committed to the work, and the folks that we're serving are so grateful. And a lot of things have had to change. This is very relational work. Our safety services team, Angel in the room right here, has been incredibly helpful, adding a safety watch element and helping us plan our activities to support folks differently. Financial aid utilization continues to grow, and a focus on the new year will be working with Julie and with the Tualatin Hills Park Foundation to look for opportunities to grow foundation support for our financial aid program so we can keep up with growing demand. And our volunteer program was a highlight at the board this past month, and we learned about the amazing volunteers in our program, the 32,000 hours of service these folks give us, the 3,200 volunteers that are projected next year, and the 1.1 million in value of what their work means to the district. So, and it's volunteer month, so yay, our volunteers, such as you all on Budget Committee. The next department in the communications division is safety services, led by Mark Pierce with Angel at his side. This is our team that works on positive ambassadorship and patrolling our 120 plus parks, 85 miles of trails and pathways, 8 pools, and all of our open facilities to keep things safe and welcoming and to make sure that we're complying with district rules. They attend events for us, they have a presence, they lead emergency management activities across the district. And emergency management activities happen all the time, not just during weather events. So for example, we recently had an activation and were able to shelter folks that were impacted by a recent fire in the community. We host some things for the American Red Cross. We have trailers on our property and we're able to help them get supplies out to people in crisis. This is very meaningful work that this team does. They also coordinate incredibly closely with Beaverton School District on a lot of Park District school safety issues. And again, as I said, a new element for this team this year has been the safety watch elements that they've had to add, working with equity and engagement to make sure people feel safe and able to attend events, both coming and leaving those events. There's a couple of big changes in the budget that I want to highlight this year for the safety services team. First is that we are investing in purchasing body-worn cameras for the team. I will just say this. I am shocked by the number of complaints I get where someone's like, your staff was terrible, it was awful. And one of our staff will have their own personal cell phone on and they will have recorded the encounter. And the patron who has called, they said some really abusive, awful language, and it was night and day different experience from what they described on the telephone and what the video described. And what we have found is that staff are using their own personal videos, and we'd be much better suited with body-worn cameras to record those videos, because when we're able to then have that video and talk to people, it's a much different conversation, right? So that's something that we want to invest in. And secondly, this budget shows that we are converting 2 of our part-time positions in safety services to full-time positions. This has been something that we've had an eye on for many years for safety services. The team is predominantly, we have 2 full-time. We have our manager and we have Angel as our lead. Everyone else historically has been part-time. And I did not know this phrase until Steve taught it to me. We have a retention crisis in safety services. So over the last year, 100% of those positions have turned over. And that's a pretty common trend for us. We put a lot of investment in training staff. You can't just send people out to enforce park rules. You have to put them through the Department of Professional Standards training certification program. It's many weeks of training, then the weeks of ride-alongs and showing people how to do the job. And what we found is that we're doing an excellent job pipelining training folks who then leave us for full-time jobs. elsewhere. And so by creating 2 full-time positions, we're really hoping to stop that retention crisis and stabilize the program so we can have consistent staffing year-round. And it's really a safety issue for us because I never want to have a day that we only have 1 safety services person working. We have to have 2 at all times to have buddy system for safety. So to fund that, we're leveraging both the funding we had for 2 existing part-time positions, and we're also taking a funded position that was in the IT department, and we're retiring that position and using that funding combined with the part-time funding to pay for the 2 full-time in safety services. The position that we're letting go in IT, I have zero concern about saying goodbye to this position. We originally budgeted it and planned for it to be a very high-level project manager for the IT department. And what we have found is that as we have going through and changing our legacy systems, we're better off with outside professional services on some of our project management functions, because once we get through the project, we're not going to have the need for that ongoing permanent position at that high salary level. So by using outside consultant services for the small time that we need that kind of intense work, we're able then to not have to fund a permanent position. And so we were able to stabilize the needs of the IT department and use this money more appropriately for safety services. So the next department in the communications division is the information technology department. It's led by Tony Dornbush, and it's on administration, page 23. Since we met last year and what we've worked on over the past year, we've completed our leadership hiring and restructuring of the department. So we have our manager in place and 2 of our supervisors. David is one of them in this room. He's going to be mad at me if he waved. Say hi, David. Yes, very shy over there. We've completed the website implementation. We're working on asset management system. We've launched our technology advisory group that is creating district-wide prioritization of IT projects. We're drafting much needed IT policies for the organization that we've been behind on and that were contemplated in our IT assessment. We've been supporting the Parkside building move. And when we get into the new building, a big chunk of our IT assessment is going to be nicely completed because we will have the appropriate server room and the backbone of the organization the assessment called for. And Tia and everyone else, we are kicking off the reg system replacement. So that work has already begun. The kickoff is spring of 2026. We're working on securing our project management support and selection, and that process is underway. In fall of 26, we anticipate being in the next phase of our vendor selection for the system itself. And we expect to be transitioning into software implementation kickoff over winter of 2027 with a soft date right now of December 2027 for a new registration system launch, hopefully for what would be winter term 2028. So that's the timeline. We'll see if it holds. But that is our expectation at this time, which would mean in about a year and a half, we'd be saying hello to a new operating system. I really want to see the smile on your face. And with that, I'm done with the communications division, and we'll turn it over to Steve.
Great, thanks, Holly. I'm Steve Sutton. I'm the director of our HR division. And HR at the district is really split into 2 departments. One we call HR, and the other is our risk and safety department. So within HR, we address employee relations and labor relations, recruiting, classification and compensation. We have an HR information system administration system, and we also have a training program. So those are some of the things that HR does. This past year, we took a very careful look at our current services. And rather than focusing on adding new resources to meet the district's need, we really focused on making better use of what we already had. We expanded employee relations work capacity, and we consolidated leadership of our part-time staff under a single administrator. Those changes resulted in increased agility and better coverage across the program. One of our more significant efforts this year was completing a part-time classification and compensation study. And the outcome of that work reached a large portion of the workforce. About 90% of part-time staff saw positive direct compensation impacts. We've made a shift to a planned cycle for classification and compensation studies for all employees moving forward. The new approach has practical budgeting benefits. It reduces the likelihood of large or unexpected adjustments and supports more consistent alignment with the market. These changes place the table for the proposed budget for next fiscal year. One of the changes that we're proposing includes a small seasonal influx of staff to support a hiring spike. So each spring, the district takes on a significant hiring effort to prepare for summer programming. About half of the annual hiring takes place over the course of just 1/3 of the year. And that concentration creates a predictable surge in workload, which requires additional support to manage. The proposed budget includes a modest investment in seasonal support to address that need, and it allows HR to expand capacity during that peak season. We're also proposing a new HR leadership position by repurposing existing FTE. That role will work alongside the division director to provide leadership support across all the core areas of HR. Can we go to the risk and benefits slide? Thanks. Our risk and benefit program continues to provide excellent service to the district. Some of the areas of focus for them are we have a safety program, we have a leave administration program, which manages all of our protected leaves of our employees. We also have benefits administration housed there, as well as our loss prevention efforts. They provide outstanding services to the district. This year, we are going to refine our approach by elevating a safety specialist that we have to a safety officer. It'll be a more diverse role with additional responsibilities and engage more in our risk and loss prevention work. We're going to continue to focus on making sure employees have what they need to do their jobs effectively and to serve the public. And we think this budget will help us do that.
All right, back to me for finance. So finance works to provide financial and operational integrity and credibility to the district. And we do this through transparency in reporting and planning. The key initiatives for the finance director in the upcoming fiscal year are to ensure that the district's pension plan administration and funding policy is followed. Also, we are going to ensure that all eligible bonds are paid up to 6 months early, saving the taxpayers' interest on general obligation bonds. We will also ensure that the interfund loan between the SDC fund and the general fund for the Parkside building tenant improvements is necessary and not excessive. Now, with the district consolidating our operations and administrative staff at the new Parkside building, this is an opportunity for us to also consolidate expenses for that building and that facility, such as office supplies. And so the budget for these expenditures has been moved to the finance director budget. Is my mic kind of cutting in and out? Okay, yeah, let's try a different one. Hopefully this one will be better. And maybe it's me, maybe it's the mic, we'll find out. Moving on to our fiscal operations department. They are responsible for operational accounting activities, including payroll, pension and retirement, accounts payable, cash receipts, as well as investment of public funds, purchasing and support of the accounting and budget functions. For the upcoming year, the department goals include supporting the grant funding and compliance process. Now, the district receives many grants dollars that help expand our programming and for our diverse community. And finance fiscal operations ensures that our spending and documentation of that spending under the programs meets all compliance requirements. Now, in the last few years, the district has invested heavily in the finance ERP system. Now, fiscal operations will work to ensure that all ERP system upgrades are completed to maintain the usefulness and the functionality of this investment. Fiscal operations will also support the upcoming technology implementations, including the registration system replacement and the new asset management system. The accounting and budget department is responsible for the district's accounting, financial reporting, performance measurement, financial planning, budgeting, business planning, and management of the district's financial data. Now, the key initiatives for the upcoming year include supporting of the upcoming technology improvements or implementations. And with the successful passage of the bond replacement, the accounting and budget staff will support the project tracking and reporting of the bond projects. And one of the things that I failed to talk about earlier was kind of and this is going beyond finance now, looking at the overall district increase in both part-time and full-time FTE. We're seeing a 3% increase in the FTE. Now, part of what you will hear a little later when Aisha has her opportunity to talk. I think it's Aisha. Yeah, you're talking about the bonds? Yes. Yes, I was right, Aisha. 3 of those positions are specifically if and when the bond measure passes. And if you take those 3 positions out, then we're actually looking at a 2% increase in FTE. And with that, we will pause for discussion.
Contingency plan if it doesn't pass?
So one of the great things about going out in May is that we have the opportunity, should it not pass, to go back out in November. We can make some modifications. We can do some public outreach and find out what the reasons behind it not passing and make adjustments.
I'll say this, I don't have a magic 8 ball and I never take anything for granted. I've got gray hair and this is my 6th election that I've had the responsibility to lead throughout my career. And our polling numbers on this one are the best I've ever participated in. And, we have had a pretty robust community engagement plan going. We've been out talking. In fact, I was talking to someone who was at a meeting yesterday, and we're all having the same experience. The levy in 24, it was challenging to talk to people. The levy was new. It was a new ask. It was a new tax. People were like, you want me to pay more and I'm not going to get any new service except a reg system, but I'm going to pay to fill a 20% hole. Those were harder conversations. The message of this bond is we're asking for the rate that we asked for in 2008, and we're focusing on taking care of what we've already built. And that message is really landing with the public. And as we're out talking to folks, and I think we're up to about 1,600 people that we've engaged with directly, the conversations, nobody likes taxes, but people are like, you know what, I get this and it's okay. So I'm pretty optimistic based on what we're hearing out there from our community engagement, from how the presentations are going, and from our polling that we're going to be successful. But that is why we did it in May, so that we could go in November if we had to. And the only election I ever lost in my career, that's exactly what happened. It was for the police building on Allen Boulevard. We lost the first time, but it set the foundation for why we barely passed the second, because you had the work of your first public information campaign to stand on when you went back out again. So I think we'll be okay. And if we aren't, we're doing the hard work to be successful in November.
Recognize Alfredo online.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Holly, I just wanted to give the feedback from the safety services portion. Thank you for the context about the the body cameras and things of that nature. I just wanted to pass along the feedback. That's super helpful in kind of in terms of creating mutual accountability and enhancing community trust of us as well. So, but that was really helpful to kind of hear a little bit more that wasn't quite on the black and white pages. So, and on that same note, really great to have hopefully some consistency there in the employees. To me, that's exactly the kind of good investment and use of kind of a third party on the IT side that can support us during these somewhat temporary projects, and then but maybe building some culture and some just in-house expertise on the safety services side is a great use of those funds. So just wanted to pass along that feedback.
With nothing further, I'll turn it over to Aisha.
Thank you, Jared. Good evening. I'm Aisha Panis, the Deputy General Manager, and I also serve as our Park Services Director. So I'm talking to you tonight about the Park Services Division. Our Park Services Group consists of 4 departments: maintenance operations, which includes both park maintenance and nature and trails work groups; support services, which has our fleet operations as well as building trades; the sustainability department, which covers a range of activities, including asset management, capital budgeting, and our strategic grant management; and finally, our planning and development department, which has both our long range and current planning programs, as well as our design and development work group. Together, these 4 departments work to provide for the entire life cycle of parks, natural areas, athletic facilities, and trails. We work collaboratively with our regional partners to plan for the future, to acquire, design, build, and maintain district facilities and amenities. And for the 26-27 fiscal year, our division's operating budget is $19,234,550. And our division includes just over 100 full-time equivalent employees. Our primary activities in this coming year include taking the initial steps to implementation of the 2026 replacement bond, should it be approved by voters, moving into our new consolidated operations and administration building, the Parkside building, and continuing to lead into our guiding documents and data analysis tools to best prioritize the use of our capital replacement dollars. On this slide, you can see the allocation of resources within the division. The vast majority of the funds, 65%, go to our maintenance operations group. These funds cover our full-time and part-time staff, contracted services, and all of the materials and services that are needed to keep our parks free of litter, dog waste, and overgrown vegetation. These funds allow us to maintain clear trails and pathways and to ensure that invasive species and hazard trees don't harm on our natural areas. Support services accounts for 17% of the division's budget, and these funds cover our in-house specialists who care for the district's fleet and facilities. Support services also includes a capital outlay amount for the replacement of vehicles and equipment. Our planning and development group is responsible for stewarding 10% of the division's budget, and these funds go toward the staff responsible for managing our planning efforts, as well as performing project management responsibilities for projects funded by the general fund and a variety of grants. The department also manages the System Development Charges Fund and delivers capacity enhancing projects using those funds. And finally, the Sustainability and Park Services Director budgets account for 8% of division funds. The Sustainability Department tackles our district and division-wide activities, such as the capital budgeting process, asset management, grants, and monitoring progress on the district's strategic plan goals. And the Park Services Director budget includes professional services dollars for legislative consultants at the state and federal level, professional development funds, and division-wide cell phone costs. Within our maintenance operations group, we have 3 distinct work groups: Park Maintenance North, Park Maintenance South, and Nature and Trails. The 2 park maintenance groups care for our parks and athletic facilities on the north and south sides of the district, with Tualatin Valley and Canyon Road serving as that general dividing line north-south. Nature and Trail staff care for our nature parks, natural spaces, and trails throughout the park district. Both of these groups have been very active in working on our tree health program and addressing the arrival of the emerald ash borer in Oregon. These groups work to find efficient ways to deliver service to our community, which can include implementing new technologies and shifting service responsibilities between the work groups. We do have one new ranger position included in the proposed budget. This position would be added to the Nature and Trails Work Group. This additional position will provide additional support for trails and natural areas by addressing hazard trees, improving environmental stewardship, increasing our maintenance services, and enhancing natural area restoration. Within support services, this is the group that cares for our fleet of vehicles and equipment, which range from string trimmers to bucket trucks. The department also includes our building trade staff, a group of skilled workers that take care of our facilities' HVAC, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, and carpentry needs. These staff care for a variety of systems that were installed during various eras, and in recent months have been taking care of a number of projects associated with our move into the Parkside building. These activities include painting, flooring projects, door hardware updates, and many other small touches that will prepare the building for our use. Our activities within this department for 27 include implementation of our new facilities functional plan, analyzing building performance standards for identified sites in the district, and continuing to remedy ADA deficiencies identified in our ADA transition plan. The small but mighty sustainability department has taken the lead on several significant projects this year that will continue into fiscal year 27. These included managing the bond task force discussions leading toward the board's referral of a replacement bond ballot measure to the May 19th election and supporting the district's move into the Parkside building. And this was by evaluating furniture we have now that can be moved into the new building and ordering furniture to support operations at Parkside. I spent an hour with Bruce Barbarash, our sustainability manager, going through the furniture, and it was the most pleasant hour of my day today. So I also wanted to share that the work that we're doing in sustainability is also seeking funding for one of our largest projects out there, which is the West Side Trail Bridge over Highway 26. We have secured about half of the funds needed to construct that $34 million bridge. And our grants administrator is still working very hard to secure additional funds. We also have department staff that have been working on the asset management software solutions, and we have selected a vendor for that preferred option. And we're currently working to translate our existing asset management information into that system, and that will be underway over the next year. We will continue to do work within sustainability to implement our climate action plan, and that will take the next couple of years to complete that work. Shall I pause so I'm not blinded? That is a bright light going on. Is it you? It's me. It's both of us. We are struggling to focus here. Yes. Oh.
We're going up.
It's getting worse. It's getting worse.
Oh, almost,
helping.
almost. There you go. Just hold it there, David.
Okay.
There we go.
All right, I will move on now to our final department, planning and development. This group has wrapped up all of the projects in the 2008 bond, and we are focusing on a delivery of a large number of SDC and grant funded projects in the next year. The largest project that you'll hear more about in a little bit is a 12-court outdoor pickleball complex with a seasonal air structure and a year-round facility that will include a check-in desk, offices, restrooms, and open areas for viewing into the courts. Construction will also be kicking off this summer on the 2-acre Saxaka Park, which is located in the North Bethany area just west of Kaiser Road. This project is jointly funded by funding from the Metro Parks Bond and a grant from the local, dear heavens. Okay. And a grant from the local government grant program. The proposed budget does include 3 limited duration positions that would be added in the event that the bond is approved. These positions would include a bond program supervisor, a park planner, and an office tech that would begin the initial implementation of that bond if it were approved. I'll pause here and see if there's any questions for Park Services.
Question.
Yes.
So I know the 3 positions you call limited duration, but are they not going to stay the whole time? Like the bond is like 20 years. So it's not, is it really like, what is the limited duration?
Traditionally, according to Steve Sutton, our HR director, a limited duration would be something more in the realm of 2 years. We do hope and anticipate that these positions would be around for much longer than that. We had a bond planning manager position for the 2008 bond, and that person was in the role for 7 years. So, and then moved into a permanent role and is still with us, Gary Keck. So we do anticipate that these positions would go much longer than your traditional limited duration, but they are dependent on the funding associated with the bond.
Now that that bond has sunsetted, shouldn't whatever positions we created for that bond be able to continue forward for this bond?
We have over time retired the positions, typically as someone left. So if someone took a different job, we analyzed whether we still needed to fill that position. Around that kind of 9-year, 10-year mark into delivery of the 2008 bond, we were able to move into more projects being delivered by our permanent regular staff, not so much permanent, but regular funded staff. And so that is the model that we would anticipate to follow in this one, where you have to get a bunch of bond work done right out of the gate. There's certain expectations for how quickly you can spend down the money you bond against.
Right.
And so we would bring on staff to really get those projects underway. And then we'd make that decision if a position became open during the course of implementation. Do we need to fill it? Are we able to transition to our permanent staff to do that work?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the recognition as well, because it's an interesting question in time management and working down funds. In 1998, we started our system development charge program. And of course, it ramped up. And little did we know, with Bethany in front of us, then North Bethany and Cooper Mountain now, it is a very significant funding for the Park District, and it all is about capital improvements. So those are additional positions and time and resources that had to be spent.
I've one question, just because when I see Emerald Ash Borer, I can't help myself. But do you have a sense of, and if you don't know today, that's totally fine. But how much of a threat that is to the district as far as, do you have just a ton of ash trees on your property and that you need to think about replacing them in the coming, like, do you have a sense of the sort of dollar figure liability associated with that?
We do. I have staff on the call that can answer that question more specifically. Yes, we're already seeing impacts to stands of ash trees, and we know that that is an issue. So that ties to also climate change, climate resiliency, and there are different other types of species of trees less susceptible to that particular problem that are also struggling. And so we know that we need to have this tree health program to monitor, to start replacing with species that are going to be more successful in this environment.
And I know you all partner really well with other organizations that are also doing this work. So a shout out to Bruce, who is leading it for you. He's great. But yeah, that's, if someone has that number and can send it to me later, I'm curious.
We will get that for you. All right, I believe Julie is speaking next.
Good evening. My name is Julie Rocha. I'm the Sports and Inclusion Director.
And I'm half of the Rec Services Division, and that includes aquatics, recreation, sports, nature, fitness, sponsorships, the Jenkins Estate, adaptive and inclusion services. We provide a broad range of programs and special events that serve a diverse community and provide health and wellness opportunities. Few things that we've worked on this year that we're going to continue into next year is we had our first year of gathering data on indirect and direct costs for our direct costs per square feet for our facilities and our fields to help us get a better idea of what we should be charging for those spaces. We're also working on an asset management for field inventory. We have a lot of fields in our park district, and right now we're managing things on Excel spreadsheets. Rec Services is kicking off 2 innovation labs. One is to explore third spaces for teens, and the other one is repurposing the HMT administration building as we vacate that to move to the new Parkside building. We're also going to hire a consultant to assist the division in reviewing our affiliated sports process. And then Rec Services, as Holly has mentioned earlier, we are the project sponsors in collaboration with IT to replace our registration software, which we are very excited about. Our appropriations, as you can see up here, is about a little over 36 million, and we have 342.79 staff. And next, I'll turn it over to Sabrina Taylor-Schmidt, Rec and Aquatic Director.
Thank you, Julie. Again, my name is Sabrina Taylor-Schmidt. I'm the Recreation and Aquatics Director here, and I share the division with Julie. One slide back, I think. Thank you. As Julie mentioned, our appropriations is just over $36 million and is broken into these 4 different departments. The director's budget houses the sponsorship budget, and the building maintenance coordination helps support all of our facilities as well as the park side, and I'll speak to that in a few minutes. Recreation as our rec centers as well as our nature center, and sports and inclusion includes adaptive and inclusive programming as well as the Jenkins Estate. And our aquatic centers, no shocker, are swimming pools. We have 8 great swimming pools that we're here to support. Next slide, please. This is our resources. So this is the revenue that we were discussing earlier. It's the program revenue over projected for next year, as well as showing you what we project for the end of year this year and where we were in the past. It's going to be, we're anticipating slightly over $12 million in revenue next year. Next slide, please. Recreation. Recreation department is managed by Ann Johnson. She's our manager for this department. It is a great department that has the Conestoga Swim Center, Cedar Hills, as well as the Nature Center within its oversight. The Recreation Department has continued its work with collaborative partners such as the Beaverton Black Parent Peoples, it's quite a mouthful there, to expand on culturally relevant programming. Additionally, THPRD has launched, as Julie mentioned, these innovation labs targeting teen programming for the community, and we're really excited about that. Currently, they are working on gathering a focus group of teens to learn how to market through social media influencers to boost program visibility. We also have the Thrive program that collaborates with Julie's team at many of our centers. That's our after-school program, and we also house 4 preschool programs. Next slide, please. Aquatics. As I mentioned, we have 8 great pools. 6 of them are indoors and 2 of them are seasonal outdoor pools. The aquatics department is managed by Andrew Jackman. The aquatics department will continue to focus on our core mission, which is offering a variety of swim lessons to the community. We offer thousands of swim lessons all year round. We also we're really working on ensuring that we are utilizing our facility and our spaces, and we're maximizing that space and making it accessible to all of our communities. The aquatics team, in collaboration with community partners, continues to provide underserved communities access, such as our women's only swims and our adaptive swim programs. Next slide, please. I turned my head away. A great question came in about our Parkside building and the additional staff. Building Maintenance Coordination Department will take the lead, and this is led by Chris Gatos. He'll take the lead on maintaining and cleaning this facility. Within this budget, we're adding 2 full-time staff to help support this, as well as the utilities and the supplies to support this building. We use data from similar sites to build the budget. As we take occupancy, we will monitor this and right-size the budget as we move forward. There's a few unknowns, and we kind of went, as Jared says, we can tend to go a little bit high on expenditures because we don't want to fall short. And as we get to mid-year, we'll right size there, and then we'll right size again next year. We're hoping that, we went maybe this way, but we don't know how the utilities are going to land and the supplies for a space of this size. But Chris is not just going to take on the operations of this facility of maintenance-wise in collaboration with Aisha's team, but he also works on capital projects and helping make sure our critical system stays solid. So things like aquatics pumps at the Aquatic Center. We're also doing some repairs on the dive tower. At Aloha, we're replacing the thermal blankets as well as the ADA lift. At Sunset, we're going to do a sand filter replacement. So these are examples of capital projects where he will work closely with Aisha's team to make sure these projects are done in an effective manner and have limited impact to our community. He also helps coordinate and set the standards for our maintenance operations at all of our rec centers and provides support on our outdoor restrooms and splash pads. And then I think I'm going back to Julie.
Thank you, Sabrina. The Sports and Inclusion Department includes the Babette Hornstein Tennis Center, the Tualatin Hills Athletic Center, Garden Home Recreation Center, Elsie Stir Center, Jenkins Estate, Adaptive and Inclusion Services, and district-wide fitness. We also work closely with our sports affiliated organizations on the field side, and we coordinate the Beaverton School District Intergovernment Agreement. This team's led by Emily Kent. Few highlights I'll highlight for each of the areas. Fitness created new partnership with Organización de Amigos for a free youth program at Garden Home, and sustained partnerships with Virginia Garcia, the Opal, and Barcelona. The fitness is expanding adaptive weight training classes and the menopause workout series at Garden Home and the women's only workout center series at Cedar Hills Rec. They're in pretty high demand. The Athletic Center updated their point of sale system at the concession stand. I know it doesn't sound like a big deal, but when you had to punch in your credit card or pay with cash, it's been a great upgrade for us. It's a good service to the community when we have league play and tournaments, and it's also helping with our revenue. The Athletic Center is bringing back our Triple Crown Sports World Series softball tournament this year. We are able to increase the field availability, which will allow us to bring more teams into Beaverton to play in this tournament. The Tennis Center is working with the USTA to become an official adaptive tennis site. The Tennis Center is also continuing to cultivate relationships with the US Pickleball and establish pickleball groups such as Pickleball is Great. And this is to bring affordable, high quality competitive tournaments to our in preparation for our new pickleball center that's coming soon. Garden Home is starting to transition the underutilized space in our courtyard and help with Aisha's team on the ground maintenance to create an inclusive, accessible outdoor learning area for support of neurodiverse youth and folks that don't have access to maybe have a garden in their immediate homes. Those maybe live in apartments. Garden Home is also working with Sabrina's team at looking at those teen spaces and how we can expand underutilized times, how we can problem solve transportation and fees and those barriers for them to participate. Garden Home is also working to develop and implement a district-wide mentoring program. This was developed based on a grant that we received from NRPA and the OJJDP. We've done it for 2 years at the Thrive site at Chehalem. And the program was so well received that we were granted additional $10,000 to further the program in the future. Elsie Stir is really working to expand trips and out-of-center experiences, including their lunch trips, adventure trips, the brunch and stroll, in response to high demand and constant wait lists. The center is also increasing awareness to underutilized space in the facility. We are offering free drop-in programs, different classes on the weekends to try to bring clientele in and to see what kind of classes folks are interested in doing on those times. We're also redid our patio. We have new furniture and new tents out there, and we're also hoping to utilize that space potentially for rentals in the future. Next slide, please. Our adaptive and inclusion services has done a great job. We've digitized all of our inclusion paperwork, and it's making the section on our new website user-friendly for all the disability community. We focused this year on right-sizing our budget, and since we've returned to full programming and staffing needs, we needed to make adjustments. We came in really high in some areas where we thought we were going to do better on programming, but as we have returned, we've noticed that things have shifted, so we worked hard this year to right-size that budget. We're also working with the new community organizations, Early Autism Services, Portland and Hillsborough Park and Recs, OHSU, Northwest Adaptive Sports to explore partnering new programs and navigating events and spaces together. We find that if we're on the west side and we're all serving this population, if we can pull our resources together, we might be able to have a better event to serve more folks. Staff is developing a short training series on autism and behavior management that strategies for assisting folks in our inclusion services and training our rec staff. And then just to date, we have supported over 17,000 hours of inclusion support to our patrons. Next slide, please. Jenkins Estate, the budget reflects the upgrade of the program, the 2-year limited duration program specialist to a permanent venue supervisor and making the 2-year limited duration program assistant position permanent. Priorities include continue to make the Jenkins Estate a rentable space for all community members by offering different price points. One of the specific examples is weddings. We're really trying to promote those micro weddings, which are for 40 folks, 40 people and under, and then also still offer those large weddings for folks who want to rent out the entire facility. We're working with the equity and engagement team to assist with scholarships for local nonprofits and community teams to offer versatile rentable fees so they can come out and host their events out in the space. We're adding more rentable spaces like the greenhouse, the hideaway, and hopefully one day the water tower to offer more options for private rentals. We're offering more one-day events to open to the community to provide access to the space without having to have rental spaces, and working on getting more Monday through Friday corporate rentals. This year, we also welcomed a new wedding coordination company, PDX Events. So they'll be coming out and running those large weddings for us, and then we will actually be making more revenue off those because we are actually helping coordinate the details of it, but they're actually doing the day of. So really excited about that. And then finally, sponsorships. I know we've talked about it, and this is in our first year of ramping up. The biggest thing is that we are exploring naming rights for our HMT complex with a consultant this year. Last year, we did a whole study about what our assets were worth, and this is our next step. Currently, we've secured $93,000 in cash sponsorships and over 37 in-kind support, expanding that capacity to serve the community. We've partnered with local businesses and the Tualatin Hills Park Foundation to sponsor a 6-seat golf cart, increasing accessibility to visitors at the Jenkins Estate. And it was really exciting. So if you've ever parked in the lower lot and walked up that hill, you'll know how important that is. Through a new partnership program, we're building a meaningful corporate relationship with the early success from Nike. Nike supported over 80 THPRD youth in the Portland Marathon Kids Run, and they provided them with new gear. They also provided 228 youth basketball players to attend the Nike Hoop Summit last weekend. They are also helping us with 2 upcoming trainings where 400 of our staff who coach and work with youth on trauma-informed care and coaching techniques. This investment matters because strong, well-trained coaches keep youth engaged in sports and help develop lifelong healthy habits, ultimately contributing to healthier and more active communities. We're expanding our outreach through our networking, like the Beaverton Area Chamber of Commerce, the PDX executives, focusing this year on year-round sponsorships and growing sponsorships like Nike to enhance youth programs and staff developments. And now Sabrina and I will take questions, and/or if you don't have one, we can continue or take a short break.
I have a question. I am really confused. We are Park and Recreation District, and I have an understanding of what that means. What I don't know is where the division between a park and rec district, a community center, and social services. Where are those divisions? It seems like the lines are blurred as to what our focus is.
Yeah, I can help a little with that. I think it is fair to say the lines are blurred, but in our case, appropriately so. The reality is there are many in our community that the opportunity that inclusion services that may look like social services days gone by are fully appropriate because they enable the opportunity for all of our district to participate. And part of it, we do have a legal obligation under the ADA Act as well. But in our case, it has always been a value for the Park District. It's a strong value for our board of directors in that opportunity to position our programming so that as many as possible can actually participate. I don't know if anyone else wants to add.
Alonso has his, and Alfredo, sorry. Did you want to comment on that or separate question?
Yeah, mine was kind of separate, but yeah, go ahead if you're still addressing.
Well, I guess I could just add that I think that partnerships really enhance our programs, similar to sponsorships that actually help bring in a different revenue source to the park district. And so a lot of these are reaching communities that we might not be able to reach without having those partnerships and bringing those communities in to recreate within our facilities. And so, we're really intentional about that outreach, making sure that everyone in our community, regardless of income or where they live or their age or their ability, can come to THPRD and feel welcomed in those programs. And so that is a big focus area that we really value. It's part of our values.
I'm just thinking that as we try to be everything to everybody, that we end up not serving the core community. Are we, like school districts now, as far as I can tell, are the main source of where social services are delivered rather than places of strict education? And so now I'm kind of concerned, are we diluting our focus from Park and Rec District to an extent where we might not be able to come back?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fine balance. I mean, I can tell you from the perspective that we have worked really hard in the district is that the reality of not leaving anyone behind is as valuable to the district and our community, I think, as moving the entire quality of life for our community forward. And it is not without challenge, but it is the best, in my opinion, of the work we do at the district. We also are very engaged with our foundation. Alfredo is the liaison to the foundation. And this is where a lot of their work is. They do a lot of fundraising. And we're hoping it gets better and better so it is able to contribute to these program areas that are, they're more heavily subsidized than others, but they are providing real opportunity for everyone.
If I could, my educational background, I have a master's degree in public administration. So I think your question is fascinating to me from that perspective and thinking of it as a government administrator. And one of the things I would say is I think there's a little bit of a faulty premise in the assumption behind the question in terms of are we diluting our services? I would say maybe we need to think about that people experience, interact, recreate, and experience THPRD in a myriad of ways. And one of the things we're doing tonight in the budget work session is we're going department by department by department. And what you're seeing is the myriad of ways that people interact with and the myriad of services that we provide. And so when you think in terms of what it takes to own and operate 122 parks, 85 miles of trails and pathways, and how people use those spaces, very different than the people necessarily coming into the centers for programs. Each center has a different culture. You know, Elsie Stir Center is a very unique place, but Conestoga Rec and Aquatic Center is a very different space than Garden Home, right? Garden Home has a lot of private rentals in there. There's other organizations in there. So each space and nook and cranny of the district is all there with intentionality, because how you experience Park and Rec is so different based on, you know, your age, your where you live in the district, and what activities that you want to participate in, where your family is at, how you culturally recreate. And so you get an opportunity in the budget work session. You might hear us talk about things like inclusion services, but if you're living and experiencing the district with disabilities or supporting a family member with that, it takes a whole different set of strategies for you to be able to participate. So you're hearing about all these different things because all 270,000 of us that live within the shared boundaries of THPRD experience and have different needs of the district. And so I don't think we're diluted in our services. I think that we're serving a very diverse set of people who choose to enjoy Park and Rec in many different ways, if that makes sense.
We do have, though, financial limits. And again, thinking about the original concept of a park and recreation district as it was originally conceived. And so I know that I go to Elsie Stir 5 days a week, and I know that most people consider it a community center. I don't think Tualatin Hills Park and Rec has a community center, do they?
I mean, a rec center can be a community.
Yeah,
they're
Are they?
they're
Are we
pretty
going to
interchangeable.
to?
They're
Yeah.
pretty interchangeable.
Yeah.
You know, the fact of the matter that, you know, many people come to their facilities, it is their gathering spot,
I also
just like a park.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about how we're talking about how the park district was originally created. None of our government systems have stayed the way that they were originally created. This is a public service organization, and so in its nature, it's to support the community. So making sure that our programs are available for everyone in our community are critically important. I think about the fact that many of my friends, my community that is out here in this area, a lot of them didn't learn how to swim because they didn't have money for it or access to it or sponsorships or things like that. So a lot of their lived experiences are dangerous. I've had to like help my friends learn how to swim. And I was able to do that growing up in a community that was very white and then also very Hispanic population. I was swimming throughout my entire childhood on the club teams. I was one of a few kids on a 100-person team to be able to do that were not students who were white. It's just about access. It's about these services. And I mean, we're doing
And they
great
were
work.
recreational ones, you know, the things you're
I
discussing.
guess my question is what are you asking about? What services are we doing that aren't recreationally related? Because all the services that we do are to support.
Well, somebody said preschool?
Yes, we have several preschools that are preschool is also recreation based. So we have a nature-based preschool. So it's introducing children to nature through environmental learning. And so this is a really actually one of our few programs that makes money, that does a really good job, that we want to keep going. So we don't want to divest from that. But it's also something that in the world of recreation, you see this us stepping into that work, because children's success in school is part of our success, right? So setting children up for success for kindergarten allows them to be successful in school and participate in our programs. So that's been our role in the preschool program.
Well, I'll just add that, we've already talked about how taxpayers is the main group that is funding this, which is pretty much anybody who's living in this district. So essentially, we need to create something for everyone to partake. And our goal, at least from the board's perspective, is never to pay to play. It's to find your reason why it's worth having that taxes come out of you, so that you have some way of, and everybody's parks is very parks, but everybody's way of recreating is very different. And so I think it is a balance of, how much do we charge for people to part, but also not pricing people out while also pricing people so that we can help other people. And so that is the very fine balance. That is always what is the magical formula for the year. And I think that's why we go through all of this. But when you mentioned core, like serving the core is everybody who lives here. So that's why we need the myriad of things to be available. But I do have a question.
Oh, I think Alfredo.
Okay,
yeah.
Alfredo can go.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just I want to really quickly address that, just from my individual board perspective. Just I think our collective community in Washington County and in Greater Beaverton works better when THPRD is well partnered with entities like Beaverton School District to provide after-school care and activities, when we're partnered with the city, when we're intertwined and not sort of this independent kind of internally focused entity. So it is a fine line. You do have to watch to make sure. And I think what we're seeing on each page and each overview is kind of a very careful and well explained look at why the district does what it does. So and that may not, to varying degrees, you may agree with that 100%, you may agree with it 50% or not at all. But I think as the current board is oriented, I think we find it fairly essential that the role that Parks and Rec has to play in our overall community health, and to be able to deliver that to as many people as possible, we have to be in a lot of different areas and partnered with a lot of different entities. So I did want to specifically just kind of break and say that we had the question earlier about, becoming, what can we do to not be so property tax dependent? And I think what you're seeing is, especially in what Julie just described, and a lot of those seeds. And I really want to commend the staff for there's not a single area that we're not trying to look at and explore to see how to provide value while also increasing our revenue so that we can deliver our services as efficiently as possible financially. So from the Jenkins Estate to the sponsorship foundation and exploration that we're doing, even the concession stand part, Julie, was like every little bit counts. And I think it's important for folks, our taxpayers, ourselves included, to know that there's not just we're not just sitting on our hands just waiting for the tax money to come in. It will always be the core part of the funding, but the district is really trying to do everything it can do to diversify and increase the alternate streams of funding. So I wanted to tip my cap there.
Yeah, did you want to?
I want to thank all of you for your comments. This is my first meeting at the board, and I really needed to get to an understanding of where you come from. And so I thank you for your candor, and I thank you for the comments. I don't disagree with you entirely.
We thank you for the questions, Gail. Okay, so my question is, so on that aspect of like the magic calculation, so I feel like we're doing more contact hours and more program hours, but then our percentage of program subsidized is increasing at a lot of like these facilities. And so, and like aquatics, right? For example, aquatics, like our program and contact hours are much more, yet we can, from 24, 25 to 26, 27, we've gone from like 57 to 73 subsidized. So is it like am I not, oh, sorry, RSV 11, for example? So I'm just trying to decipher why if we're doing more hours and more programming, are we having a higher, and it's not just for aquatics, right? Like aquatics was, but like athletic center, garden home, all those had a significant increase. And I just want to figure out.
Yes, I think
personnel.
Jared's jumping to answer your question, then he's going to pass it to me, I swear, I think.
I am. I wanted to make one point and then, yes, pass over to Sabrina for more information from the finance perspective. The 23 and 24 and 25 actuals were what actually happened. And then as a reminder, our budget is conservative in that our resource that we put in the budget is low. And I have seen that we are exceeding our actual revenues above what we budget.
You read my line.
I'm sorry. And now I'll turn it over to Sabrina.
Jared stole my line. Yeah. So that's a great question. We just are really super conservative. I laugh when I look at the bar line of some of the revenues because it's what we project is so conservative.
Okay.
And then we just continue to go out. But that's how we want to be. We don't want to ever get too far out over our skis, right?
Right.
So we want to project that we're going to expend it all. And my staff is so good. And they're driven to do better than that and come in way under. So it's a combination of things. We do better on the revenue, but we also really look at how we're expending things. And so that's why you see the amended, which is the mid-year, which we did amend and cut it back, came back, but we still are conservative, and the proposed even higher. But you'll see next year, I guarantee you that number is going to shift dramatically back down.
So like we anticipate these amendeds would likely come down by the
Yeah.
end of the year.
If you looked at the last year's, if we opened up last year's budget book, and I don't have
Yeah,
it
I
in front of
can't
me,
remember. Yeah.
but I would guess that we didn't say it was going to be at 57. I would guess that we would have had it at a higher percentage.
Okay. And then my other question is for Twelton Hills Athletic Center, how do we get that 0% again? So RSV 34, it was like a zero, like, is that, I mean, how did we, like, what was so special about 24, 25 where we got 0% subsidized for the athletic center? Oh, maybe, yeah, there you go. That's probably a.
It's not zero, but it's a very, very small percentage. And in that, yes, we collected 2,769,000 and spent 2,771,000. So yes, that's what happened.
We can't keep, like, was there tournaments that we were?
No, this was the first year that they moved field fees back into the athletic center budget. Before that, they were in the general fund.
Okay.
And so that is why, and they were mad that they're at zero. They wanted to be negative, like the tennis center. Next year, athletic center would be even better because fitness is under the athletic center. They're non-revenue generating because the revenue is distributed through each center. So they're absorbing the staffing costs. Those staffing costs will be moved out this next year into the manager's budget as an expenditure only. So that would then help their targets as well.
I totally agree with the conservative approach in our forecasting and budgeting, but I think we should find a balance because I see the revenue row is almost nothing in the next 5 years, or maybe it's only 2 or 3%. I think we should put some more realistic growth expectation in there, especially when we are closer to the levy campaign, because if we have a more realistic revenue growth, we may need only 40 cents instead of 50 cents of levy, for example. So that's something I think we should have some, approach to find the balance in terms of conservative and, minimize the impact on taxpayers.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think we ended up here because our past, over a 10-year period was the opposite. We overestimated revenue, and then it was a painful experience at the end. So we've swung perhaps too far now, and we're actually getting, we're getting more actuals. So it's helping us to really set a better baseline.
Doug, if I could just add to that just 1 second. Also, I know it's hard to imagine, but we're still only 5 years out of shutting down all of our facilities. And so a lot of our revenue projections are still growing. We only, it takes a little bit to rebuild that program. I mean, this is probably the first year we felt, I think, more stable and consistent with both staffing, program levels, and attendance to see that. So I agree with what you're saying there, Hannah, sorry. And I think that's good feedback for us, but I just want to provide that perspective as well.
I didn't bring my mid-year, but I feel like I remember the budget to actuals actually getting closer and closer over the last couple of years. But I don't know if I don't have the data in front of me to say that for certain.
One of the areas for, Sabrina, you have to help me if it's 24, 25 or 26. We did a resetting of the program revenue. In years past, Doug had mentioned that the amounts just kept, budget revenue just kept growing and growing and growing, and the centers were having a hard time meeting those targets. And so we did a reset to realistic expectations. And now with increased programming and increased activities, we are starting to exceed those realistic projections.
He is correct. It was.
So continue on, or should we take a 5-minute break? Power through. I hear power through. Okay. I have 2 more slides before I get to turn it back over to Aisha, and she gets to talk all about capital. But before we get to capital, The debt service fund accounts for the annual property tax revenues and the annual debt service payments on our general obligation debt. The general obligation debt was approved by the voters to be repaid out of a designated additional property tax. Now, this fund includes repayment of the 14.5 million outstanding bond balance from the 100 million 2008 bond levy. The levy amount is set based on the annual debt service payment required, and the rate is then determined based on the total assessed value. So the total levy amount needed for this coming year is 8.6 million, and based on our projected growth in assessed value, this would result in a property tax rate of 24 cents per thousand, which continues to be well below our projected rate of 37 cents as stated in the 2008 election materials. Now, this lower rate is attributed to a combination of the favorable market conditions at the time that the debt was issued, as well as subsequent refinancings. And this overall has reduced the total debt service amount to be paid by the district. Several years ago, the district received funds for, did you change that? Did I change?
I did.
You did? Okay, thank you. No worries. Okay. It's like, wait, I saw a change. The district received funds for mitigation work done at our sites to offset development impacts to wetlands elsewhere within the district. Now, these funds were set aside to be the source of future maintenance work on these mitigation sites. Now, while we are not receiving additional resources of this type, these funds may still be needed in the future for maintenance work, and therefore we are setting them aside. And with that, I'll turn it over to Aisha for capital.
Thank you, Jared. The Park Services Division leads the effort to do our capital replacement planning each year with the help of a committee made up of members across our district. This year, we're going to be carrying over a significant amount of funding from fiscal year 26. So you see that represented in the first line. And this is primarily because of funding associated with the Parkside building as well as the pickleball building. And just to be clear, this is not because the projects aren't going as fast as they want. They're exactly on schedule, but they just are larger projects that take more time. And we knew starting out that they would straddle the fiscal year. So we needed to make sure that those funds went forward. We're also including some of our grant funded projects that like we explained with the West Side Trail, where we've secured some of the money, but you can't build half a bridge. So you've got to carry forward the money you've got while you're hoping to gain some more funds to complete those projects. And then the balance of the projects listed for our capital replacement plan this year are ones that are fairly modest in nature, and we're going to go over those in the next few slides. But first, I'll talk a little bit more about what is included in those carryover projects. Pickleball and Parkside being the two projects that began this year or earlier, but are expected to be completed in the next fiscal year. We did anticipate how long or how far along those projects would be at mid-year, and a few months later with this proposed budget, we have a better picture of how much will have happened prior to June 30, how much will happen after June 30. But as I mentioned, both are proceeding on schedule. We do have a number of federally funded projects that are underway and will also continue into the next year. This includes some air filtration and HVAC improvements at several facilities, a seismic and solar assessment, and technology upgrades across the district. We do have some additional grant-funded work that will be carried over, and this includes work along the Fano Creek Trail, which was some lottery funds we received, and that is going to be open to the public. Well, it's open to the public now. We'll celebrate its opening next week, but we do have a little bit of closeout money that will carry over. We also have a pollinator project along the Rock Creek Trail, and at the Tualatin Hills Nature Park, we had some community choice grant funding through Metro that's going to allow some work to happen there. And then we do have some paving projects that are carried over into this year at Camp Rivendell, Little People's Park, Rock Creek Park, and Merritt Woods. And we typically have land acquisition funds that we carry forward just because those processes take quite a bit of time to work through with sellers. And so we have those captured in the carry forward as well. So within our current replacement budget, we have some athletic facility replacements. We intend to do some field light replacement at the Howard M. Turpinning Recreation Complex and also do some resurfacing and crack repairs at the Terra Linda tennis courts. In our building replacements category, we are going to be doing some flooring work at Conestoga Recreation and Aquatic Center. We'll be replacing the split system in the Manzanita room at Stir Center. And we are also going to be replacing the main circulation pump/motor at the Aquatic Center, and the Sunset Swim Center down on the bottom of the screen will be getting a exterior paint job. Within the Park and Trail Improvements category, we are continuing funding of our Memorial Bench program, and we have some signage replacement planned for a few of our well-loved facilities that had very lovely monument signs that are showing their age. So we are looking at replacing signage both at Jenkins Estate and the Nature Park. Some additional replacement work we're doing is replacing some playground components at a variety of sites across the district. And let's see, doing some asphalt overlay and repairs, and that's at multiple locations. Our ADA improvements program typically has kind of two sides of it. One is to focus on improvements within buildings and to improve buildings, locations outside of buildings. So the pictures you see here really represent projects that occur outside in our parks. And we're just trying to make conditions a little bit better for folks that are trying to access these things, creating better pathways to benches, keeping people's feet dry when they're trying to get a little taste of water or something like that. And then moving into a dedicated funding source that we have, it is the Metro Bond local share allocation. THPRD received our own allocation based on the population that we serve of, I think, 8.6 million. And those projects that we defined, we worked through with Metro, got their agreement that those were eligible for funding under the program. And we've completed one of those projects already, and it's open. It's our Willow Creek Boardwalk replacement. We're also using funds from this category to develop the Saxaka Park and Trail up in North Bethany. And we are replacing 2 play equipment installations with accessible nature play at Bonnie Slope and I believe Rock Creek Park. And then the final project that we had funded under our local share amount was the Commonwealth Bridge and Weir replacement. So those are all projects that we're working on, but we had very exciting news last week where our board approved an agreement and the Beaverton City Council approved an agreement whereby their $5.7 million would come to the Park District for us to deliver on projects that we both agreed were priorities for the Beaverton area we serve. And so that added a couple more projects to our list. The Beaverton Creek Trail segments 3 and 4 will receive some of that funding. And then we also have another segment of the Willow Creek Boardwalk that needs replacing. Funds can go to that. And if there are any funds left over, we will look to develop a park in the South Cooper Mountain area. So this is a very exciting turn of events. Within our System Development Charges Fund, you see a very large number there for appropriation. We're not going to spend that this year. I think it's important to point that out. Those are funds that are allocated over the course of the next 5 years to deliver on system development charge projects. Those are the ones that increase capacity for park district users. And within this category, we have that pickleball facility construction. The West Side Trail Bridge has funding dedicated from system development charges. We're currently underway on a concept planning effort for both ends of the bridge that are the last remaining segments of the West Side Trail. And we're also looking at some concept planning for a new park in the southwest quadrant. And of course, land acquisition, which is very much opportunistic. When they pop up. And we seek to have some funding dedicated. And we do have a new category of acquisition in downtown Beaverton that we're looking for opportunities to expand urban parks. And finally, when I was going through the PowerPoint for this evening, I got to the bond capital and I was like, well, we're done with that. Delete the slide. But it turns out that with an ask for the voters next few weeks, within the next month, we will potentially have occasion to spend bond dollars again. And so we wanted to reflect what it would take to launch that program just for that first year, should those funds be made available to us by voters. We wanted to be able to start outlining our schedule, defining those projects a little bit better, starting some outreach efforts. And so, as we mentioned, this would cover the staffing associated with that, some consulting services to get us on the right track, and the time it's going to take to do things like pre-qualify consulting firms and contractors potentially. So that is the update on capital, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Just have clarification about the SDC fund, $78 million. I saw in the statement, we plan to spend all of them next year.
That should not be accurate. We have a 5-year capital improvement plan that shows how those SDC funds would be spent. So we have those allocated by year, by project. So for example, we have a concept planning item for a park that would be in this coming fiscal year, and subsequent fiscal years would have the other 2 primary phases of development, which are design and permitting in 1 year, and the following year would be a construction project.
I think I know the comment you were referencing. I mentioned that one of the assumptions we have in the 5-year projection is that we spend all the capital projects every year. That assumption is for the general fund. And then that projection is just general fund projection, which is our operating fund that does have capital associated with it.
But I also see the SCD allocation, 51 million and 27 million for next year. Oh, maybe I'm wrong, but I saw the figure somewhere. But I mean, it's just to clarify that we're not going to spend the whole 78 million
No.
this year.
No, that would be to deliver the projects on that 5-year CIP.
Thank you.
The 5-year SDC projects are on pages SDC 11 through SDC 16, outlining each of the years, starting with 26, going through it's a big schedule through fiscal year 31. So.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions regarding capital? Thank you.
With that, we'll actually turn it back over to Chair Elizabeth.
Thank you very much. So now is the time that we have set aside on our agenda for public comment. Do we have any requests for public testimony this evening?
We do not.
Okay, fine. So with that, still me, I'm now going to open the floor to the Budget Committee discussion regarding the district's proposed fiscal year 26-27 budget. So any other comments, questions, burning items, things that you didn't bring up during the different discussion elements during the presentation? The floor is yours, Budget Committee. And Jared, the smirk you saw on my face was trying to restrain myself from saying you didn't just know the page number that it was on.
Yes, sorry. The SDC 5-year capital list is not something that I look at a lot.
So then maybe, well, yeah, do you have a-
Yeah, I know I have a few questions about capital investment, and thank you very much for your answer. I mean, you provide us a very like comprehensive answer that I feel very happy with that. Just one input. I know that the team has been working very hard to make the projects executed according to the plan, but we have a lot of money on hand, right? SDC fund, general fund, and hopefully the upcoming bond fund. So I think we should, I know that you've been doing a lot, but that's something we should pay more attention to. Make sure that we try to execute the projects as soon as possible, because there may be opportunity costs, right? Just like Gail mentioned about the cost may increase, especially in the inflationary environment today. Next year, I mean, the project probably costs us 20% more. So that's one of the input that I would like the team to pay attention to.
I just have a quick comment. Just wanted to say thank you to staff, but also thank you to all the volunteers on the budget committee. I really appreciate everyone's questions. It was robust conversation and very helpful.
I think on that point, I'd like to elaborate. The material this year actually is even better than last year. It seemed that you take into account our questions, our concern last year. So you put a lot of additional information into the book, and especially the long-term, the long-range planning. It's very, very, very useful. I think we should, plan longer term like that, because again, our bond would be 20 years, our levy would be 5 years. So 5 years, like rigorous planning like this is very, very helpful to the public.
I learn something every time I come here, whether it's about budgeting, great questions that come from colleagues on the committee. For folks, I don't know if there are that many folks watching online, but we also submitted questions in advance. Those were answered. So some of the trickier things have already been addressed, and we have those answers in writing. But yeah, just a thank you to staff. I'm in my own professional life, we are in budget time right now as well, and just thinking about all of the work that goes into making this such a comprehensive document takes a lot. So thank you. And we got a hand.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I really just, I think I say this most years, but this year, I really think this opportunity when we expand from just the board of directors each month to this full budget committee is so valuable for me. And to be able to hear from a lot of you are on this committee because of your expertise in your professional life or your perspective in your personal life. And it is so valuable for me to be able to hear you and even, get productively challenged and have me think about my own why, and incredibly valuable. So thank you for just bringing your full your full selves to this experience. It makes us better. So thank you.
And Pradna, yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Firstly, apologies for not being in person. Very last minute change for me, just being unwell. Didn't want to be there with the space today. But I just want to start by thanking the committee members. Your input, not just this year, but over last year as well, helped the board, helped the staff to put in improvements within our budget proposal. I have been on budget committees before with Washington County, and I know it's a very exhaustive process. So even though this is my first year on THPRD budget, I can already see how thorough this material is. And I especially want to thank our staff. It takes a lot to put in this package. I was actually looking at some of these numbers after our last budget meeting, and the due diligence that is required to make sure every single line item is accurate is a lot. So I really appreciate the team. And then, of course, Doug and Aisha's leadership in bringing this together. And thanks to my other board members who were able to be there in person to support everyone in the process. Thank you.
I guess I should say something. No, I'll echo what all my board members have said. I really appreciate it. Budgeting is, I don't think any of us are actual, like, that's our job on the board. So, in our professional lives, so we really appreciate that, that those are the kinds of things we look for who's going to staff our advisory members, because, all together we are stronger. And I really appreciate, like, Gail and Hannah for your comments and questions today. And I really encourage everyone to kind of push at our staff so that we ensure that we are doing what's right and we have the right focus and the right way that we should be thinking about our budget. And so as we are representative of our community who elected us, you guys are also representatives of the people that in your community circle. So we encourage those kinds of questions, and I really appreciate that. So I would just put it for next budget to come up with more questions and more things to not attack the staff with, but to push them to make sure that the stance that we are on the right footing. And so I just want to really appreciate and just giving us a different perspective of the way that we should be thinking about and ensuring that we're thinking about things in all different directions.
Well, we have had a very robust discussion this evening. Staff have delivered the proposed budget, and according to budget law, we are required to have one meeting, and we have had that meeting. We do have a meeting scheduled for May. So we have a couple of options. We have two options this evening. We can adjourn for the evening. We can meet again in May. Or if you're comfortable, if you have had your questions answered, if you feel confident that the proposed budget is as it should be, we can approve the budget tonight and not meet in May. The choice is up to the committee.
I think about the best way to kind of gauge interest.
I just want to say, whatever information was needed, whatever questions was asked, were answered. Especially like everybody else has said, this book is everything that needs to be there. It's black and white there. Across the years, we have seen the progress. I think I want to vote to prove this today. I'm just.
I think that's a motion.
Yeah. Then, yeah, so then we have a,
unless somebody else.
There we go. Yeah, well, and just to also, if we have a motion on the floor, then I think we're, yeah, then you can have discussion on it. So any additional discussion on the motion to approve the budget this evening? Yeah.
I move that the Budget Committee approve the proposed fiscal year 2026-27 budget and the appropriations contained therein.
Yes, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. At this point, I'll ask all in favor. Please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I will now open the floor for a motion to approve the property taxes to be imposed. So that's the number 2 up there on the screen.
I move that the Budget Committee establish and approve the general fund property tax levy at the permanent tax rate of 1.3073, the local option levy tax rate of 50 cents, and establish and approve the bond fund property tax levy in the amount of $8,525,166 for the fiscal year of 2026 and 27.
Opposed? Motion carries. Yep, I actually wrote myself a note here, and sidebarred. So we're gonna jump back. Apologies when coming in a little late. I skipped over an item, which is at the opening of your book, you have the meeting minutes from February 26th. So I'm also going to open the floor for a motion to approve our minutes from February as submitted.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hands. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We have minutes. So since the Budget Committee approved the proposed budget this evening, its work has concluded. Adoption of the proposed budget will be considered by the THPRD Board of Directors at their June 10th, 2026 regular board meeting. I'm going to look to you, say anything else? Anything else? All right. In that case, I'm going to hold this gavel and say there being no further business this evening, the work session is adjourned.